You ever walked into a room, open your mouth, say the right words, and still feel like you landed wrong? Like the words were okay, but the reaction was off. That's not just in your head. People hear your tone before they process your meaning. They decide in milliseconds if you're safe, confident, interesting, or cold. That instant gut check is about sound, not grammar. I've been obsessed with this because I've watched the same sentence land like a warm hug or slap depending on how it's delivered. Science backs it up. Researchers call it paralinguistics. Everything riding alongside your words, pitch, pauses, rhythm, speed, volume. The late David Crystal wrote about how these signals carry attitude and emotion far beyond literal meaning. Even babies respond to tone before words. We all still do. Think of your voice as a soundtrack running under your ideas. The words are the lyrics, but tone is the music. And music moves people first. Guyer uh, and colleagues at Ohio State ran studies. I guess Guyer is his name, if I pronounce correctly, showing that vocals cues like pitch and pace change how confident you seem and how persuasive your message feels. They tested it in different contexts and found the effect holds even when listeners are trying to be analytical. Your tone literally tilts the table under their thoughts. Let's get more human. Imagine someone tells you, I'm proud of you. Flat voice, no warmth. You might doubt they mean it. Now, picture the same phrase with a slight drop in a volume, softer edges, a real smile in the voice, your chest relaxes, you feel seen. The text didn't change, the tone did. This is why learning to shape your tone is like unlocking a hidden level in communication. When people talk about warm response, they're really talking about the nervous system. A warm tone triggers calm and openness in the listener. A harsh or clipped tone triggers defense. We evolved to survive by detecting threat through sound. So when you speak with warmth, you're signaling no danger. Let's connect. This is why therapists speak softly before hard truths, and why great leaders slow down instead of shouting to gain authority. One of the coolest things I've seen in high pressure communication is how pros build a baseline. Before they speak, they literally take a micro breath, lower their shoulders, and settle the pitch of their voice. That baseline is like a home base. From there you can go up or down. If your default is tense, everything you say comes out sharp. If your default is calm, even hard truths sound steadier. I tried this myself before a big meeting. I used to turn on caffeine and talk fast. People looked overwhelmed. After starting Susan Berkeley's book, Speak to Influence, I started pausing before I began, breathing from my belly, letting the first sentence be slower. The room changed. People leaned in instead of bracing. I didn't soften my ideas, I softened my sound. Huge difference. Another technique is mirroring tone lightly, not parroting but adjusting to like other person's energy. If they quite lower your voice, if they are upbeat, lift a bit. It's a way of saying I'm with you. This builds rapport almost invisibly. Negotiators, mediators, even call centers, again, agents train on this because it works across cultures. Silence is another secret ingredient. When you pause before a key phrase, the listener's brain leans forward. They mark that moment as important. You don't need a dramatic pause, just a beat. Think of it like punctuation in your voice. Uh, Another author with the name Marshall calls it letting the words land in this in his book Tonal Influence. It's like a title of a book. It's one of the simple shifts you can practice. Man, I like this metaphor, letting the words land, like describing this kind of silence. Silence is in okay, we discussed silence. So let's do a micro exercise right here. Say thank you in your normal voice. So now say it again, but take a breath, slow down, let your tone drop just a hair at the end. Feels different, right? It hits the other person differently too. These micro shifts add up to a huge change in how people experience you. In other words, you as a virus, but in a good way, you uh, sharing your mood, not mood, like a tone of voice. In other words, depend on what kind of tone of voice, but not just tone of voice, but like a reaction you want to get. You creating that, like the source of it first, and based on like again situation you want to create like a nice friendly atmosphere, or it's opposite, you speak differently. Okay, actors use a hack called emotional recall, and it works for all of us. Before you speak, think of a moment when you felt genuine gratitude or solid confidence. Hold that memory for heartbeat, then speak. Your tone will automatically carry that emotion. You're not faking anything. You're tuning your instrument. In other words, you not just uh, focusing to what you're saying, but you focusing to even like psychologically, emotionally to that flow, like emotional state. Tone arcs matter over a whole conversation. If you start warm, build energy in the middle, then slow and soften for the key point. Listeners stay engaged. Flat tone is like an elevator music. Nobody notices. Erratic tone is like a bad DJ. People feel jittery, but a thoughtful arc pulls people through a journey. This is why the best TED speakers sound effortless. They map their journal journey alongside their script. But again, it's not like having uh, there is no like a universally one type of tone of voice. It depends of like who you're talking to. You uh, choosing, in other words, you mirroring that person's way of speaking in terms of like a speed. Because again, if person speaks slowly and you speak fast, that person who speaks slowly gonna approach you like kind of like enemy. A friend of mine used to lead team calls that were dead silent. People muted, didn't email, waited for it to end. I coached her to slow down with vary pitch, pause, and smile audibly. Within 2 weeks, the same team was asking questions, volunteering ideas. She didn't change the slides, she changed the music under the slides. That's the power of tone. Now let's talk about authority versus warmth. You don't have to choose one. The trick is to blend them. Start with warmth to open the door. Shift to a lower, slower tone, mark authority. Return to warmth to close the loop. Think of it as a like emotional punctuation. This lets you to deliver hard feedback without sounding cruel or rally a crowd without barking. There is also physical side, breath support tone. Breathing makes you sound tight. Uh, Belly breathing makes you sound grounded. Try putting a hand on your stomach. Inhale. So your hand moves out, then speak on the exhale. Your voice will be thicker, more resonant, less shaky. This is why singers and actors obsess over diaphragmatic breathing. Like, quick example: hello. You feel like my hello landed to your right ear. All right. Another small but powerful trick: smile with your voice. You don't need to grin, just lift the corners of your mouth slightly as you speak. The resonance shifts and listeners feel it as friendliness. Radio hosts do this constantly. You can too, even on phone calls. And you see how it's actually powerful. This like knowing these tips are uh, that even though it could be during a phone call when people don't see each other, even changing uh, like our mouth to the smile, even though other person cannot see that smile, subconsciously he getting or she getting our pitch in a positive way. And again, it's not about like being a joker, but just a little bit smile if you want to get again positive feedback. Let's address pitfalls. Overdoing warmth makes you sound mushy. Staying monotone makes you sound bored. Or acting sounds fake. Rushing kills tone. The fix for all of these is self-awareness and gradual practice. Record yourself, pick one habit at a time to improve and give it a week or two before moving on. Books can help here. Another book, Tonal Influence, gives clear drills on shaping your delivery. Speak to Influence shows how coaches train executives. David Crystal's essays explain the linguistics of paralinguistics, and the Geyer, I guess I pronounced the name correctly, Guerrero guy or whatever, study is the hard science proving tone alters perception even under scrutiny. Together, they form kind of a toolkit you can dip into for both theory and practice. Another story, I once had to deliver bad news to a client. Um, my instinct was to rush, get it over with. Instead, I breathed, slowed my tone, and let a little warmth come through. The client surprised me by saying, "Thanks for telling me so clearly." We ended up laughing about the solution. If I'd done it in a clipped and tense, I'm sure we'd have had a fight instead. Tone also matter for digital life, like a voice notes, Zoom call, even AI assistants. There is a recent paper on how vocal tone affects trust in voice interfaces. It found people rated the same assistant more reliable when the tone was positive versus neutral. If tone can change our reaction to a robot, imagine what it does to like a human to human. I love thinking of voice as color. You get a palette like warmth, calm, authority, playfulness. Most of us use the same shade all day without realizing it. With a bit of practice, you can switch hues depending on the moment. That does not mean being fake. It means expressing part of yourself you already have, but rarely show. Because I guess the problem is, first of all, people, uh, uh, ironically, like in one side, like when we're saying something and we don't know like this kind of tips, we just focusing to the words instead of course, we have to like think about the words, but we almost do not pay attention to like how we say. And again, ironically, other person, even though like we don't know this knowledge about these tips, our subconscious motherfucker understand somehow, like it's like if a sound fake or not, and that kind of subconscious feeling. So again, by learning, knowing these kind of things, we kind of like reverse engineering, and we delivering message in a way that we wanted to deliver. In other words, we delivering not uh, just words, but we're putting emotions into these words. Practicing in low stakes situations first. Phone a friend, leave a voice note, try different tonalities, pay attention to their reaction. Once you get comfortable, bring it to higher stakes conversations. Over time, your default tone shifts. You don't have to think about it anymore. It is like learning to ride a bike. In other words, it is like anything else. It's just like the more you're practicing it, the more things becoming automatically, and you don't have to think about the same stuff twice, like autopilot mode, you know. And one more point: your body posture influences tone. Hunched shoulders, pinch your breath, straight but relaxed posture, freeze it. Even standing up instead of sitting can open your chest and give your voice more resonance, which is actually really true. Because I like while doing this, for example, on my I'm doing this like while I sing, but I know that if I record the same audio, but while I stand up, it's gonna have actually much better quality. I like kind of my voice become more flexible. Okay, in other words, experiment. Sometimes the fastest way to change your tone is to change your stance. When you on mic for podcast, your listeners can hear your smile. For example, now I'm smiling. I guess you're feeling that. Feel it, baby. All right. Your breath, your presence. They cannot see, but they feel you. That's why hosts who sound warm pull you in, and hosts who sound mechanical make you drift. Everything we have been talking about applies double for recorded voice. So kind of like how can I say it is like we subconsciously approaching someone's voice like a music, and if a music, aka tone of voice, soft, we it's better to communicate rather than listening to some raw dubstep. All right, everything we have been talking about applies double for recorded voice. So here is what I want you to take away. Words matter, but tone is a carrier wave. Shape the carrier wave, and your message rise further. Warmth doesn't mean weakness. Authority doesn't mean shouting. Pauses are not awkward. They are powerful. You just have to know, like, why you're doing this and like when you can do this. Smile, breathe, and let silence do some of the work. And once you start playing with tone consciously, you will hear the world differently too. You will notice which, like a teacher's holder room, which friends always sound safe to confide in, which leaders inspire instead of intimidate. You will start hearing the patterns, and you will borrow that. You will borrow what works. That's how pros learn. In other words, you're not just um, like while learning and practicing, you at the same time getting more uh, observative uh, of you also paying attention to others too. In other words, another good side of it actually that it gives you another extra information when people talking to you. In other words, most of the people do not, of course, know about this and do not practicing this, and that's actually good for you. Why? Because by paying attention to the words, how people say said their words to you, you can uh, instead of just focusing to the words, you also noticing what is actually behind uh, like their background, true emotions uh, behind that. Like for example, if your friend saying to you, um, "Sorry, I don't know, I can't help you," and it's like a face to face, but you see like in his facial expressions that and in his tone of voice that he says that in uh, it is not like a fitting to the context. It's not like look sounds sad. It's like more like maybe neutral, maybe even kind of like positive. So you can see like a mismatch. And at some point it starts being technique and starts being style. Your voice becomes an instrument of connection. People will not be able to explain why they like talking with you. They will just feel good when they do. And that's the real magic of tone. It bypasses the rational gatekeepers and like a lands straight in the nervous system. And you see actually why it's powerful. that you know how to deliver, like how to be flexible with your tone of voice, how to uh, give a pitch in a best way to directly, uh, like a post office, deliver your message to the nervous system. In other words, you're not uh, you touching not just logic but also emotions, and it makes whatever thing you're doing more productive. You getting things done. So next time you're about to open your mouth, pause for half a second. Ask yourself, how do I want them to feel? Take a breath, then let your voice carry that feeling. Yeah, let me read this again. Let your voice carry that feeling. In other words, if you want to say something lovely, friendly, emotionally, psychologically, put into that words, to that sentence, exact that emotion, like facial expression, body language. And again, even though people do not understand what, this kind of like a things, science behind of it, they get you better. And again, more importantly, you uh, becoming more productive. You want getting what you getting things that you want faster, better, rather than just like focusing to the words. Over time, you will become not just someone who talks, but someone people want to listen to. That's different. That's the difference tone makes, and that's what this whole episode has been about. Not tricks, not manipulation. Learning to use natural instrument you have had since birth to connect, to persuade, to soothe, to lead. Once you felt difference, you will never go back to throwing words into the air without the music underneath them. So, if you like this almost like half an hour podcast, smash the like button, subscribe button, and see you next time. And you can uh, send a comment. I don't know what kind of like a topic you want to discuss too.